Looking those over, if there's a motion to adopt, we'll entertain
So
that.
moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second?
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, minutes are adopted. Tuscaloosa Police Department retention proposal. Mayor Maddox is not here. Kip, are you up at the stand?
No,
Because
sir, I'm just up to come join you.
So
You gotta
Chief,
get back to
between you and Miss Standridge, who's picking up?
I'm just ready for y'all to vote, answer any questions.
Okay, I
y'all
think
have.
Okay, Cool.
we did all the presentation last week, and so this is really just going to be the up or down vote, for the ability to create the retention bonus within code as was given to, council in the last agenda in the packet. The ordinance was listed that allows for the bonus to be created and the payout amounts, and the payout dates. And then the budget revision will go straight to council afterwards if it is approved.
All right, we'll stand by. I do think there are some questions before we get to a vote. Vicki, can you put up the slide? And Chief Blankley, thank you and your team. I know I have made a nuisance of myself seeking data, and this is, by the way, the data. I'm an eye candy kind of guy, but what I wanted.
I figured you could put that up there, so I printed it out for you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is this y'all's?
Yes, this is what I
You'll
said.
notice mine is 3D.
Yeah,
Okay?
we're not fancy like you have the technology money you got.
Yeah, right. An iPhone. So let's look at this one up on, these are y'all's numbers, Chief, and what I've done, the blue bars are, they're hired, in uniform, and they're fully ready to go out for assignment, all right?
Yes, sir.
The kind of, the bright red is, they ain't there. All right.
Yes, sir.
And then the sort of subdued red is they're hired, but they're in training. And as you've discussed with us, that means roughly a year before you can deploy them out on the streets on their own, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, and this is, I think, the last 30 months, 2.5 years. Talk to us about the travails that you've experienced in this time, and at what point you began to feel we were moving into crisis mode.
Yes, sir. I think we were in crisis mode before this. I think it's really relevant. The big thing, if you look at this graph, your numbers, they go up and down. They're kind of the same, but what you're actually seeing is if you look at how many vacancies we had in training, they flip-flopped, and that's dangerous.
Right.
That's my
You
major
do see that,
crisis.
by the way.
I think about right here, August 22, you start to see really that even out, and then you see it go a different direction. So the 33 vacancies and the 23 in training versus the 11 and 32, like I said, that's when it starts to be a big issue because you've got those vacancies. Now you've only got those short amount in training. You know we're going to lose more, and some of those in training are not going to make it. We just know that. If you have 5 patrol officers that graduate the academy, 1 or 2 of them are not going to end up being on the streets by the time it's over with. They're just not the right person. They get scared. Multiple of reasons why they just don't make it. So the flip flop of that is what really scares me is that it's more vacancies than training now.
Okay, thank you, because I got that this morning. I kind of came to the same conclusion. I looked at the blue bars and I thought,
It's the same. Or
yeah,
close.
it's. But the bright red ones, you start to see them extending larger and larger over the last year or so, and I believe it is because of what you pointed out.
Yes, sir.
It's the culprit is the bar underneath, the light red, which shows that they're not there to go into the pipeline being trained.
Yes, sir.
Committee members, anybody else have any questions on this? I want to.
I was looking, Chief, on the second page.
Yes, sir.
It seems like in February, this was the most officers that we have. for
Which year, sir? February
22.
Yes, sir.
Had 251 available for duty. But however, in January 23 and February 23 was the most, I guess the less that we had unavailable for training. This, I'm gonna call it a gifting. this gifting of this bonus is going to, your expectancy is to be able to do what as it relates to this?
Keep the officers that we have here. When you look at the other agencies that are hiring, and I'll just go, especially the UA. I mean, they're looking at a $20,000 jump going over there. This isn't 20,000. The city can't afford 20,000. It's a 10,000 jump to help stay them there with the possibility that's already been mentioned. By Councilman Busby of looking at a long-term solution. We know this is a Band-Aid. It's a, hey, stay here, get us through. The council understands what's going on, and the price of police officers have went up. I think everybody at the table has told me that personally.
Yeah.
But it kind of keeps us there and said, look, we need a long-term fix. Everybody knows that, but the city's willing to work at that. This is kind of keeping you here. Let's keep you here. Let's keep you tied in, and then let's look towards the future.
I thank you.
Chief, we've got to do something to keep these guys. I mean, everybody in Tuscaloosa knows that. And it's a little frightening. As an aside, I was assigned to a patrol car by myself after about 4 weeks, and that was one scary 8 hours.
I can imagine.
But at any rate, we've got.
That's back when you had to buy your own pistol
That's
and
exactly
buy your own
right.
handcuffs.
That's right. And we actually did have radios in the car. But it's we've got to do something. I'm going to say this publicly. I don't know that we'll ever get up to 290, but if we could get up about 20 more than we are and stay there, I would be thrilled to death.
Yes, sir. I would as well.
Chief, where are your holes? You gave me a hard copy of your organizational structure at the end of last week.
Yes, sir.
Where are the holes?
A lot of them, we've got a good investigation unit. A lot of them come out of patrol. Those are the guys that are constantly rolling over. Now, we are, top heavy. I've already put on there some positions that when they retire out, I will not fill. We've got some captains, there are slots when they retire that I won't fill to keep more officers in patrol and not roll all those up. We go to RSA, we know we're going to lose some of those captains. So when those are filled, they'll be filled with officer positions down there. We won't have to promote as much to do that. But definitely our holes are in patrol, and that's the backbone. So if we lose patrol, that's when you start looking, hey, how are we going to shift people back to patrol to answer calls? The dangerous thing is they're the ones figuring out who's robbing people, who's shooting people, who's doing everything under the sun, and solving those crimes and sending those people away for years and years and years. Not as long as we'd like them to be sent away for. But like I said, right now, the short staff is patrol. And we've got, numbers that we look at that if we hit this number, then we're going to start putting people back in patrol.
Is that your junior officers under
Yes, sir.
4 or 5 years?
Yes, sir. 75% of our patrol is under 5 years.
And patrol's the backbone of any
Yes, sir.
police.
Absolutely.
Work the beat. You might work
So-
the beat. You gotta.
And obviously, it's one of the least desirable positions in the police department. By the time you go to investigations or narcotics or homicides or air patrol or anything like that, you've got some time in it. So it's our young men and women that that come in and do the job, and it's fast paced. We answer over 93,000 calls a year, so they're constantly running and gunning, and it wears you out quickly. But that's where we're lacking right now. We're trying to keep that staff.
Ms. Standridge, I know you and I talked on the phone. Would you come up here and address my question, which was why a 2-year program? Why not a 1 year? If what we need is an interim measure to keep from losing people, why not structure it towards 1 year and $5,000 versus 2 year and $10,000?
Okay, so the way that we analyzed this was taking what the current officer rank pays out and where the majority of our officers, where they sit in regards to their pay. And not just officers, there are some sergeants, there are some junior sergeants, and where they sit at in their pay scale and what they make, what they take home in pay amount. When you compare that to what the University of Alabama is willing to pay out, not just in base salary, but also in a signing bonus, that tops out at if it is an APOS certified officer with 2 years of experience, that officer can go into the University of Alabama making a little bit over $71,000 a year. on top of a $7,500 signing bonus. So you're looking at over $78,000 in that first year of employment of a APOS certified 2-year officer. So when I look at the dollar amounts for what is going to be attractive for one of our officers to want to go, I'm looking at about an $80,000 range. You know, when you take into account the attractiveness of what the officer will be doing versus at TPD, the ability of possible off time at UA, all of those things kind of lined up. I'm looking at about $80,000 of an attractive total package pay scale to go to UA. When we look at our officers and our junior sergeants, the number of people that make under $80,000 is 180 officers, approximately 180 officers and junior sergeants. If you pay,
This is not counting overtime, right?
this is not counting overtime, yes, sir. Because I mean, okay, so
Unwanted overtime.
So and again, let's talk about the overtime and let's value that at a dollar amount. When you go over to UA and you are making base salary at 71 and some change, your overtime rate, you can work 2/3 the amount of hours at UAPD and make the same amount of money as you would make 100% at TPD. So like, you know, you're working 1/3 the less time, making the same amount of money at a little bit more of a, not disparagingly, but a little bit of an easier assignment as well. So 1/3 the less time, a little bit easier assignment, making more money. Trying to make that be a package to tell our officers and junior sergeants to stay here. If you add $5,000, if you create a $5,000 bonus structure, that $5,000 literally puts the 180 officer bucket that we're worried about that has UA as an attractive offer. If you take that 180 people, you give them $5,000, that literally takes 10 people out of that bucket. If you give $10,000, that takes 65 people out of that bucket. So $5,000 more dollars, giving that much more of a magnitude of a save for us, I think is attractive. Much more so than just a $5,000 saving 10 people. If you give $10,000, we kind of ask, well, what can we get in return? Do we need them to stay for 1 year to maybe get a little bit more of a fuller package proposed to City Council to be able to have a holistic view of it? Yes. But at the same time, what if it takes a little bit longer than a year? Why don't we just go ahead and tack on, we're giving them $10,000 instead of $5,000. Why don't we tack on 2 years just to give us a little bit of cushion room? Yeah. That's where the $10,000 and the 2 years proposal comes from.
Okay.
Now, again, I'm going to tell everyone, for full disclosure, $10,000, saving 65 officers, we're still 118 officers at TPD that will be making less than if they went to UA tomorrow.
We're never gonna pay them. I mean, we need to just forget about paying what they're doing at the UA.
But you gotta be competitive.
Well,
No.
I understand that, but we can't pay them $65,000 a year to start. And I think we need to make it, we're a better police department. We're a better place to work and not badmouth
It don't
ourselves.
matter at all when it comes to competition out there.
I
can say we're-
agree,
oh,
but
that's a
I
better
think when you're
place.
looking at, when you're
That ain't-
statistically trying to put together
Show
a
me the money.
proposal for
That's what
what's
it's gonna
going to
be.
impact the
I ain't gonna
whole.
hear that.
I do think that the magnitude of 118 officers that are still gonna be making less than if they go over there tomorrow.
Well, the good
Is a
news is they
consideration.
can't hire 118 officers.
Other places can.
Huh?
Other places can, you also.
I'm not against it. Don't misunderstand. It's just, I think,
Do I think we're ever gonna match UA salary? No, but we need to be close.
I wish we could.
We work more calls than anybody else in the county. We're exposed to, all the other agencies are great. I work with them every single day and I respect every one of them. Our guys work their butts off. And I know.
I know
you're with
that.
us,
I know
But I
that.
think we have to come up with a long-term solution. That
But-
has to be done.
But we need the pension plan,
Yes, sir.
and to me, that's more important.
And I want to make this very clear from a dollar perspective, not just to the city council, but to any of the officers that are out there. This proposal, this bonus proposal, does not jeopardize RSA at all. 110%, I can guarantee you that it does not impact RSA and our plan to get there. I'm not saying that any future proposal might not tinker with that a little bit, but I can guarantee that that will be number one in our minds of any other proposal that we bring. RSA and the retirement option will have to be a major priority.
And when we started looking at this, kind of clear that up, one of the first things I asked was, would this impact RSA? Because you're correct, we cannot impact RSA. RSA has to happen. So this is a, like I said, it's a Band-Aid. RSA is, I can't stress how important RSA is. But this is a Band-Aid. But we understand we can't print money like UA. We get that. We're just trying to come up with a solid thing because, like I said, I'm in crisis mode right now.
Well, interesting.
Ms. Standard, I think we covered it in last meeting, but this money is coming from, roughly half of it is unused personnel pay out of the police department for the officers they could not hire.
That's correct.
And
that's-
roughly the other half is unfilled positions across the rest of the staff, allocated proportionately.
Proportionately, yes, sir.
All right.
So there's 1.5 million that 1.5 and some change that can come from TPD's salary savings, and then another 1.4 and some change that is proportionally taken out of all of the other departments. For positions that they could not hire for, but then also sometimes we'll have salary savings in other personnel change areas. When you see other departments kind of come to you with a larger realignment, reorganization of their departments, sometimes that saves us money. A lot of times that saves us money, and so some of the savings will be coming from that too.
Okay.
Urban development specifically.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to I want to ask a couple questions, Chief, but, as I sit here, we have been on the council for more than half our term, and one thing that I'm proud of, it is unquestioned should not be questioned by anyone, this council supports our fire employees.
Yes,
And I look back, when we first got here, we passed a pay plan that was critical to becoming more competitive, right? And we worked together to go toward a plan toward doing RSA, and then we looked at sign-on bonuses and retention bonuses, and now referral bonuses. There is no doubt. We know that this is not going to solve our problem. And the one concern that I've got, I'm very supportive of this and plan on voting for it. But I think in this new world, we're going to have to look very hard at how we're recruiting. Because I told you that when you and I met the other day, what are we doing that's working? What are we doing that's not working? What are some innovative things that maybe we're not trying that we can do? And hopefully this council would fund that. I also think that long term, we've got to figure out a way to pay more in all departments, in all areas, because I think the city's going to continue to have problems hiring people in areas where we're not competitive in this market. It's not just law enforcement. So I think from a law enforcement perspective, though, I hope that we'll continue having these discussions about recruiting and about what do we actually need to do to be more competitive, because this is going to make us more competitive, but it's not going to get us where we want to go. And that's my biggest concern, that I wish we were voting on something that I could say, well, this is going to solve the problem, because you guys have a tough job. There are less people that want to go into it. There are less people that want to go, maybe not as much. And we talk about our friends in fire and rescue. They don't have the recruiting problems right now that y'all are having. Yes, we know that. But long term, there are issues in all of these areas, because it's just a different market. And the requirements of jobs that people are doing are totally different than what a lot of people want to do, right? I look at, now I'm sorry to go back to my frame of reference as trucking, but the trucking business has dramatically changed in the last 5, 6, 7 years when it comes to recruiting. We are doing things that we've never had to do before, and we still have 100% turnover, Chief. If you have 75 in a month or 60 on a yearly basis, what I'm saying, that sounds terrible. But you're kind of cheering 50, 60% now, and that's what's kind of scary to me. But I think everybody's having trouble hiring people, And I just think we've got to continue to be very aware as a council to figure out what are some ways that we can incentivize and make not just money. Money's important.
Right.
But what are some other things maybe we can do for some of our employees that aren't monetary? It could be more time off. It could be more, some type of more benefit. I don't know, that's less expensive than is, because I think a lot of people want to go to another job because they're going to pay you $5,000 more a year. I know there's a lot of people like that. I think there's a lot of other things sometimes you can put on the table with someone that they might want to say, I kind of like where I'm at. And I hope that that's one of the things that this will do. That it's not a dollar for dollar match, but that we show people that we appreciate it. Because if anybody in fire and police and law enforcement don't think we support them and appreciative of them, they've been asleep for 2 years.
Yes, sir, I agree.
And I think y'all do a very good job for this city, and all of our employees do. And I think we're just in a tough spot.
And I know
And everybody is across the country, but it's not unique.
sometimes you probably feel like you're beating your head against the wall.
I feel like a redhead stepchild sometimes.
I understand. Don't. I mean, we appreciate you. We appreciate you, Chief. We do.
No, and the big thing is that, the turnover rate, the part that I think is a little different from us is it does take a year to get somebody on the street. It's not something we can taught in a month or 3 weeks. And that's the part that we're looking towards the future. That's the hardest part. If we could train somebody in 3 or 4 weeks, I think we'd be looking at kind of a different thing right now. But the amount of time it takes does change things.
We don't have that issue.
Any,
You can give us some training, but you're talking a couple weeks before you can go.
Yeah, I don't think we want to get somebody a badge and gun and say, here you go, like they did in the old days.
I do think it is a bad day, like Chief said, and we probably need to get together sooner than later to find out a long-term solution, like, cause it's happening. We're gonna need it. I mean, we can't keep feeding to that. They need something permanent set in stone.
Well, I think
So I suggested one time, maybe, and that was just me. I'm just talking, and Carly probably gonna go over and brick over at me. But I said, hey, we could probably pay for insurance. That'll put more money in their pockets or something. I was missing certain things. That was a while ago when I first
That's
started.
a real issue. And I will say that during budget process, we definitely look at what it would cost for us to pay more of a percentage of our health insurance coverage. I'm from a dollar perspective, I'm going to push a lot more for take-home pay than I am for health insurance coverage, just because it's a lot more expensive.
And I know that you was looking at that, but even the money, I say we have to find a way to. We gotta pay them, or we gotta be.
But I really think, the pension plan, and you've made this statement, there might be some people around the state that aren't making what we pay.
Okay.
Who would like to come to Tuscaloosa if they could keep their years in.
Without doubt, RSA changes the game. We can't recruit from other agencies right now. I believe we have RSA. We do. We need to have that total package. Everything needs to come together.
so gentlemen, I know Mr. Tyner's got a question, and then if anybody else, either on the committee or not, just on the council in general.
I do, and the police are watching. Let me finish before you get mad at me, because I promise you I'm supporting this. Chief, answer a question that I've been asked.
Yes, sir.
Pension is I think the most important thing. I believe we all agree. Getting to that pension, state pension, I hear it from every single police officer I've come across. And as the mayor said, this is a Band-Aid, but it's $3.2 million. How can you assure people this is not going to be money that would go to the pension? And how come it's all the police department, not just maybe 5 or 10 years under where the problem is of where you're losing people? I think after 10 years, you really aren't losing officers, are you?
I think if you do it, you got to do it department-wide. I think, we're all, the younger officers, the older officers, everybody there. I mean, I've got lieutenants making less than the UA officers.
I got you.
Coming in, and sergeants and everything else. I think, you want to absolutely kill morale inside the department. You say, hey, y'all get this, y'all don't. And I know it's a hard thing to do, and that, that's about my answer, because we're making up for those 30% that we are under right now.
Well,
everybody's working.
Well, I needed to ask that
and
question.
like I said, I respect it, but I mean, that's the truth of it.
Okay.
What was the other parts?
That was it.
Okay.
Because the pension, I think y'all both
Yeah,
said
the pension is, absolutely one of the most important things we can do.
Gotcha.
Okay.
And I will reiterate that the way that we're paying for RSA, the way that the financial plan, the strategic plan that we presented, this money's not coming from that.
Gotcha.
Again, look, I cannot promise that any future payout would not in some way need to make that financial plan be tweaked.
Yeah, I just hope that
Okay.
we'll keep that first and foremost of what we pass to the council looking at 2026. Because I think if you dare go past 2026, it's gonna
Right.
be, it would be,
I think that's
it
what
would be
people are waiting for.
horrible.
You're right.
All right, any other questions, comments? Is there a motion?
Motion approved,
Second.
Mr. Chairman.
All in favor say aye.
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 Thank you.
Okay, motion passes.
Thank you, Chief.
Next on the agenda, let's see, item number 2, authorization to disperse from District 6 improvement funds. Councilman Fail.
$1,000 for each of the schools in our district and $1,000 for District 5, no. For Donnie Lee's, I think it's the Ivy. And while it's in District 5, he touches
All districts.
all of us, and he's just about 3 blocks from my district, so
Right.
I feel good about that.
Any questions?
Motion approved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Item is approved. Item number 3, authorization to execute a letter of engagement with Warren Averett for the PL 113-2 audit.
The PL 113-2 audit is an internal audit designated for the 2014 disaster recovery funding that was received. In 2014, the city received $45 million worth of disaster recovery funding for the 2011 tornado. As part of the compliance requirements for that audit, we were to engage in an internal audit review of all of those transactions. We no longer have an internal audit division, and so therefore we must contract this service out. Warren Averett has done this service for us for I think the last 4 years, and this will be totally paid for by that grant funding. It is a not to exceed contract of $30,000.
Are there any questions?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. All right, item is approved. Item number 4, resolution authorizing payment to USI Insurance Services LLC for renewal of EMT home health care professional liability insurance. Mr. Holmes.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, you may recall this is one of the insurance renewals that was scheduled to be presented, I believe, the end of May, when that series of council meetings was canceled and thus the insurance litigation committee was also canceled. We didn't have the final quote at that time when it came in. I'd asked if y'all had a problem with me putting it on finance committee.
I remember.
And so this is the renewal for EMT home health professional liability insurance coverage. What this covers is our EMTs that work under Chief Smith's EMS prevention. Sorry, I always forget the name of the program. This is a program that it aims at preventing low acuity ambulance calls for people. One of the great stories I heard early on in the program was we had an individual that was, once a month, every couple of months, calling 911, taking an ambulance ride to GCH to deal with diabetes. Ultimately, it turned out this individual couldn't afford testing strips and only monitored their blood sugar by knowing that they were having an issue when their vision started getting blurry. And so they've been able to do things like get with people in that situation, provide some minimal amount of testing strips, and then prevent having to do an EMS call on it. This is a total of $6,435.26. This is an increase over last year's premium of $340.26, which is roughly 5%-ish by my math.
All right, thank you. Gentlemen, are there any questions?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item number 4 is approved. Items number 5 and 6, we now continue hearing from some of the larger agencies which we participate in funding. We had Tuscaloosa City School Board last week. This week, we've got Tuscaloosa Public Library and Tuscaloosa Transit Authority. Ms. Pearson, welcome to you and your team, and we look forward to hearing from you.
So Amy is handing out a few handouts. One is the actual presentation slides, and then another is a supplement that we worked on. thank you for letting us come, and be here and talk to you about our budget. Just sort of, I'm gonna do a general preview and then kind of go a little off the script of the slides, but we're here asking for, 1.7 million for the main library and $705 for the Weaver Bolton Library for the next, fiscal year. We have also developed a plan that would bring us up to $25 per capita from all three
Well,
funding partners.
I'm sorry, 1.7 for the main and then $750,000 in addition for the Weaver Bolton?
No, the 1 point, okay, I'm sorry, no,
Okay,
it is. It's 1.7 for this.
For the total, that's not.
the 1.7 is the
The one-
total.
That's the total.
In there is the
Yeah,
stuff,
that's not the
okay.
increase. I
Thank
think
you,
that's
ma'am,
what
okay,
you're
good.
saying.
Go ahead, I was recovering my composure.
I'm sorry,
I was like, wait a minute.
yeah, that was, okay, yeah. So what I'm gonna talk about is what we're asking, it's an additional from last year, $280,000 for the main library. That is roughly a 20% increase from the year before. And that is to cover, which we've talked about this in the past, some of the deficit over the last 10 years and the decreased funding that the library has received. And if you wanna see it, it's in that supplemental handout, it sort of lists where that money's going. If, and this is not part of this slide, if we are level funded, I just wanted to lay this out so that you have a clear picture. The hiring freeze that we are under would continue. The further reduction, we would have to further reduce our electronic databases and resources, further reduction of open operational hours, reduction of books and materials, reductions of programming, and continued reduction of our summer reading program. If we are funded the additional $280,000, that will help us to begin to reinstate things. So we will continue the hiring freeze as it is, but we will rehire any newly vacated positions. We will expand the content of our current databases, reopen on Mondays, and evaluate hours of operation, update essential equipment that needs to be replaced right now, reinstate 10% of the programming budget, and return to full summer reading program of 7 weeks. If we can come to an agreement with the sustained 5 to 6 year funding plan, what we could then start to look to the future for is lifting permanently the hiring freeze, evaluate addition of databases, increase the programming budget, increase books and materials, implement a book vending machine project, which I will touch on briefly in just a second, implement a mobile library project, and increase the e-content to reduce wait times for materials. One of the things that we did not get to mention last year that I did want to bring up here is that over the last 5 years, the library has had to spend its reserves by over $1 million to compensate for underfunding or for the decrease in funding. So that's very important for y'all to understand that our reserves are basically gone. There's not anything for us to sort of fall back on at this point. The next page in that supplement, and this is just a real brief, because this is, if y'all want to talk later, we can talk more about
no,
this.
thank you, you're right, you're doing well.
Okay. One of the things that I would love to see us do is to push out into the communities, into all the districts, where the access is easier for all of the people in the city of Tuscaloosa. And one way for us to do that easily are with book vending machines. And for just, lack of a long explanation, think red box for libraries. So this is something that there's 2 different types that you can do. One that can physically stand on its own out in the open. And it is a little bit pricier at $278,000 per unit. But then there's one that can go inside of a facility, like a Paris Center or other locations, that is, the total startup for it would be about $77,000. If we were to put 5 of those, so 1 in each district that does not have a library branch, the initial startup would be a little over $385,000. Then the annual maintenance for that would be about $178,000. So compared to what it costs for an actual branch, you're getting essentially like 5 right there for that price. Also, one of the things that we're working on right now is to get a new mobile library. So it would be not your bookmobile, but an actual same vehicle, but it would take the library to the people, meet them where they are. It would bring printer services, computer services, copying, faxing, all of those things that we can actually take out into the community where the people need it if they're not close to the main library or the Weaver Golden Library. So those are just a few of the things that I wanted to let y'all know that we kind of have sort of in the back that we are talking about and would love to do for this community. One of the things that I also added, and I did kind of update this from the slide that's in the program, is just the number of programs. I did not break out for the city the total number, but we did over 540 programs last year through the Tuscaloosa Public Library System, and that includes county and Northport as well, but the greater majority are within the city limits of Tuscaloosa. We had over 28,000 people attend those programs. In the Tuscaloosa City school systems alone, we did 90 programs with over 9,273 students that we were able to touch by going out into the schools, because we do realize there are kids that won't be able to come to the library and experience our services. And one of the things that we've really started working on in the last few years is our relationship with the schools and how we can better help them and better serve them. We also donated over 500 books that we discarded from our library branches to the city schools. And we have started a program called Books to School, where we lend books to the school libraries. So if the school library doesn't have a book, we have it, we send it to them through the Tuscaloosa City Schools Pony Express system. So, and that was, I don't know if I said that, 623 items that we lent just to the schools directly, not outside of their individual cards. So that's just sort of a main overview. The Weaver branch, we're not asking for much of an increase. It's like a 1.5%. This would allow us to open 4 hours on Saturdays. I know that this is something that the community would like, and if you would, the total dollar increase is right at $11,000. As I mentioned at the council meeting last week, we are already seeing huge numbers coming through the door. Well, not huge, but we're getting there. I think that first week with over 740 people coming through the door, when the entire month of June we had a little over 1,300. So 50% of June's door count walked through in 1 week. So I think that's a substantial marker for what's to come.
You know, I've been talking to some people, and the Weaver Golden Branch has increased usages, which is a great thing. Can you elaborate on that usage? Who's been using it? How long they've been using it?
So we've seen just more people coming through the door. A lot of them are some of our regulars. One of the things that we noticed when we went back after COVID is that the Weaver community didn't come back like the people who came back in May. And we are finally seeing them returning. And I don't, maybe we've done a better job getting the word out. I don't know. One of the biggest things is we went into the schools specifically during the month of June. A large number of those programs were in the schools during the month of June. And I think that impact is bringing the value back. I think they're realizing what they had been missing. We had 52 kids show up today for our sort of makeshift summer reading program that we did. So we're just seeing fantastic turnout.
I've seen Tuscaloosa one place, they had the mentoring program or whatever.
Yes,
right.
Right. We have started reaching out to those community partners and getting them to come and meet at the Weaver Golden Branch and making sure that their needs are met or whatever we can do to facilitate that and open our space up. So it is definitely
that happening, because that's the whole intention, I think, of what we all want it done. So that's good news. It's very good news.
All right.
so, and I'll go through these slides real quick. Overall, and this is something that y'all seen and that you've heard about our funding levels, and this is where we set the $25 benchmark. That was just sort of an arbitrary number based on these funding levels across the United States. So we picked the $25 mark, and in that, part of the plan that we created, I'll come back and talk about that, is we took the per capita, the $25, subtracted where we are right now. So Tuscaloosa City is $11 or $14.11 per capita. So the difference of that is $10.89, and divided that by 6 years. We did a modest calculation of population growth of 1.5% and 3% inflation annually. Obviously, those numbers will change, but this is just to get you a general picture of what it would look like. And this is how it kind of plays out. So it would be an increase like this each year for the next 6 years. And I have it tracked out. It's in the back printed. It's very small. I'll be happy to send it to you in a spreadsheet so you can enlarge it and see it. But it's tracked for 6 years, just like this here.
Does Northport use our library?
Yes, they do.
We're gonna have to have, I'm treasurer of the board, counselor, and so we're gonna have some similar discussions with the county and
Yes.
Northport, and we're planning on having those.
Yeah. No, statistically, some of the, specifically our e-content, Northport users use the library twice as much as any other resident in the city and or county.
They do what, say that again?
They use it twice as much. And that is substantial, and we are definitely, I mean, this is not my last stop.
You're just first on the calendar,
Yeah,
y'all
you're just
scheduled this
working on
first.
it. Yeah.
Okay, well, so far, you're doing good. It's been a very succinct and logical presentation.
This is just here again, what we would restore, sort of going towards that. And one thing that I did want to mention, I'll go back to this slide here, is that the Tuscaloosa Public Library System is the only public library in Tuscaloosa County. And unlike other organizations requesting funding from the city, we cannot generate revenue. And under Alabama law, we are established as free public libraries and to be used by their respective counties and municipalities. So the funding that we receive from each of our funding partners is very critical to the operation of the library. So I just wanted to kind of point that out. But as you can see, all of our numbers, even with the cuts this year, everything went up. It wasn't necessarily a goal that we were trying to achieve so much, but with the fines free, we have seen all of our numbers go up with checkouts through the door, new cards, and then obviously summer reading was down slightly, but we had a little over 9,000 with 7 weeks of program last year. 4 weeks this year, we had 7,240, so we were at 80%. So we were definitely on track to exceed our numbers from last year. And just a fun little stat, this is something that the American Library Association, they put a calculator out, but with what the citizens of Tuscaloosa City checked out and services that they used last year, we saved them over $7 million.
How did you increase those numbers of new cars created?
So those were specifically from, Weaver was one of them. We made had a concerted effort to go out into the schools and get children registered for their library cards. We went to several, PTO nights, literacy nights, promoting library services and what we can do to help these families and the kids in the school system. Okay? Do I have any questions?
Very good presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jennifer, can I ask you a quick question?
Yes.
Just a quick update on the roof.
Yes.
All the stuff, I mean, did everything
We're
get
working on
done
that.
within
The
the
bids.
money? Did all that get done?
You want me to jump in on that?
You can.
Okay, so we're working on that. We sent out bid, we did a bid package. It was published, however, when the bid package came back, there were some questions that suggested we might need to better arrange and detail the process for putting it in. So we met, 4 or 5 of us, including Mr. Lance Wyatt, myself, and staff, met with Eric at Ellis, and we've kind of redone it and put some other things in to just make sure there's a smooth process. I don't know if you know this, but I've never replaced a commercial roof in my day, but because this roof is 40 years old, it's actually gonna take several months to clean it off, to get it down
You
to
gotta
the
take all the
cement.
whole tar, everything off?
It's gonna take a while, they have to do a process, and
Yeah,
we also have to time in the installation of the HVAC units. So there's really a detailed process that we wanted to make sure that the general contractor on it knew the process.
but there's no financial surprise of it. I mean, you still
Not yet,
feel
not
like
yet.
that's where we are, we're okay.
That's, we're waiting for the bids to come back. They should be back August
When
15th.
do you think, Brian, it will be finished, based on what you just said,
If
before the
we
end of the
bid
year,
August 15, probably around the new year,
before the rainy season?
hopefully. You
I
know,
hope so, too.
we've also had to go in and look at other things, because of the rain, and working with our insurers and addressing that. And so one of the things that came up at the last meeting was we actually don't even have a lease with anybody for the building, so we need to get that handled to make sure everybody's covered. So step by step with Jennifer and Amy's great work, and they are wonderful. We're trying to take care of the issues one by one by one. But a dry library will be the greatest step forward for sure.
Our
Good.
newest
Tuscaloosa.
challenge is one of our compressors went out with the HVAC system, so everyone in here is talking about how cold it is. It's 66 degrees in the office right now, so.
And again, thank you very much. It was a good presentation. Mr. Fail, are you chairing public safety today?
If
I'm gonna
Raymond's
ask you-
not here, I will,
I'm
yeah.
gonna ask if we can ease over into your time. I think it's
Sure,
still
no
manageable.
problem. We shouldn't take but just a few minutes.
Okay. All right, that brings us next to Tuscaloosa Transit Authority.
Thank you, Counselor.
Welcome.
Just a few handouts, from this version today. Well, I had an hour. Would you,
If it's an hour, the answer,
Part
if
of
it's an
this-
hour, the answer's no.
Thank you. Oh, again, thank you.
Hey, could I get one of those? Is this it?
Yeah, I got that. Yeah,
All right, we're good.
I got that. And Chip can have it back. Thank you. Thank you again for allowing me to come and speak on behalf of Tuscaloosa Transit. Tuscaloosa Transit has been in operation since 1972. It's our 51st year, going to be the second year, which is quite an accomplishment this long, 50 plus years of transportation. And I think a lot of these agencies were enacted, attorneys could vouch for that back in that year. If you look down the list in 72, I mean, most of the agencies in town were enacted by state legislature. And we're an agency of the city, where some cities do run transit. But when the agency form, that allows to go get those federal tax dollars. So basically, in a nutshell, the 30% match money goes and gets 70% federal dollars. So our budget being this past year at $3.6 million, and the allocation to the city, and all the allocations total was roughly about 30% of that. And then this, I think we're getting around right at 655. Our addition we've asked for this year, we've been level funded for 4 years, and our addition this year is strictly, I'm going to cover that in just a minute, but it's strictly directly related to fuel costs. I know the city it's probably up $1 million at the city, as much as the city does. I don't know the figures, but we're up $100-something thousand in fuel over the whole sustained last year. It's leveled off a little bit, but it's still up about 70,000 more we used to. So it's kind of where you give to the 32,000. So I believe I just started this way. Just started to the right. Okay, that worked. Yeah, thank you. And I put this in a handout for you. My transmittal letter to Ms. Carly and to the mayor itself is all explained in the first 2 pages, but I want to let you know where our monies go to, obviously, and this is kind of similar to a presentation I did recently, which, if y'all recall, y'all helped us, the city helped us buy 4 brand new buses, and they're all low floor buses. But just in a nutshell, the funding from the city comes to us, and we match that money for operations and capital. With addition to those recent buses, our whole fleet now is all low floor, and our ADA buses now are all alternate fuel, which we use propane on the 9 vans that we have. I want to show you pictures shortly. So all of our fleet now is actually up to date. We are all low floor buses, and I want to show you what those look like. Y'all may recall this just 6 or 8 months ago when those buses came in. The low floor, there's no step ups on our transit buses. I know several of y'all have ridden recently, and thank y'all for that. But as you can see, they're low floor, so there's a lot of advantages to this. Is we don't have any more step ups anymore. So, if you're a ADA wheelchair bound, you go right in, we secure you, 3-point check. Our elderly, as you know, our ridership, the aging and so forth, and our fare system is very advantageous to our senior citizens. Our fare system has been $1 for 25 years. We charge $1 per ride. If you're 60 or older, you're reduced fare at 50 cents. If you're on Medicare, it's 50 cents. Now, this has been this way for 25 years. We have not raised rates. Our whole staff is proud of that fact. We have, obviously, I think in our view, hopefully y'all's view too, been diligent with our funding that we get. And the third thing, of course, you know, colonels are veterans. Our veterans ride, whether you serve 1 day or 100 years in the military, you ride for 50 cents as well. So that is to our veterans. And obviously the VA stop is, we have 2 stops at the VA, and is highly used. It's probably our second most important stop behind Walmart. You know, Walmart is obviously going to be very good. We could run probably 3 buses an hour to Walmart. But the VA has been very, very, very good for us. But I mean, it is what it is.
I was going to ask that question. I'm glad he.
It is.
Thanks,
Really.
Russ.
Let me show you the inside of the bus. This is you know, padded seating and so forth, laid out very well. You see the railing and so forth, the safety items that we have. Those chairs to the right, they lift up when you have handicap or ADA and wheelchairs, and there's, you have 2 tie downs on each bus, and you know, if somebody comes up, you know, we can accommodate, and we have this. We have several that ride daily on this. So these low floors really help keep our buses rolling and keeping us on track, because we have posted times and we try to do that every hour. These are the vans I mentioned briefly. As you can see, they do have a step up. The low floor on these vans doubles the cost. These vans here, our last ones that we got in were around $90,000. With inflation and so forth, supply chain issues, these same vans, we got in the last 2 for around $90,000, and that's with a propane conversion. They're now $130,000. And it's unbelievable. I can't imagine what school buses have gone to. I know y'all probably spoken to Dr. if that even came up, but I know that in our industry, inflation is real. I'm not here for that today. What I'm here for today is basically fuel. Yes, sir.
Are those, when you buy those, are they still the same match? Or we have to put 30%, 70% for?
No. That's
Buy
even
new
better.
ones?
Yes, sir. That's
What is that?
$85.15.
85.50.
Yes, sir. So that van, say back then, let's say it was 100, just to make it easy for my math. 15,000 local matching funds, 85,000 federal funds. Now, you know, grants, you know, they don't teach this in school. I had a good teacher, Tracy Kroom, 25 years ago when I started with the city of Tuscaloosa. So I'm actually in my 25th year. So I was sitting here a while ago just looking at the board and how many of the former councilmen and councilwomen I've worked with. I was just looking around, and it goes all the way to that wall. So it's been here a while. I guess my gray hairs show that. But if you'll see, our fuel is very simple. Not in 2020, obviously, barrel of oil was 0. I mean, it deflated completely. COVID came along, and the futures market was 0. It's a 0. And as you know, in the last couple of years, you know, that has itched up. Our back then was 140, you know, 170, and now 293. I did some quick calculations this week when I knew I was coming in. We're looking at average about 248 this year. So if you look back in the last few years, what we have been spending and now what we're spending is our direct request this year is strictly tied to fuel. Certainly helped with an increase. Obviously, as y'all know, we've had a lot of local funding with all agencies, but you know, it's a balancing act.
Has your fleet remained constant?
Oh, yes.
Is that, so the numbers haven't?
No.
So those are the same numbers and the
Our
same
numbers
cost?
have actually gotten better because these are better fuel efficient. These diesels, as you probably know, the trucking industry, all the regulations that came about 8 years ago, 9 years ago with all the.
I killed it.
Well, we have to go change the filters out. You know what? And reach in on the bus, get it down the interstate, you gotta blow it out. I mean, that's just, you know.
We're not have to buy anything.
Well, right now, we're good on capital. Our help is.
Talking about the filters and all that
Well,
stuff. They are,
they're-
I can't imagine what you pay for.
Well, I think they're, best I recall, they were around $2,800 to $2,900 per bus. And you're gonna have to do it every so many years.
7,000.
So Russell, y'all's asked.
That, we're doing several for them. You look at that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Russell, y'all's ask this year is the 688 plus the 23 and change special appropriation.
No increase in special appropriation. That goes toward the UA funding.
That's the UA, McDonald Hughes Seniors,
and
some maintenance
we've
shop
always
equipment.
allocated, the city council has always allocated around $3,700 per year for our shop. I hope this is being recorded. For our shop, Last year, we bought, tire changing equipment, we didn't even have it. And, we use that, we can match federal dollars at the 80-20 mark, so that kind of goes with that. So that 3,700 gives me $18,000 of federal money. So last year, Councilman Busby, we changed all the lighting out in the shop, went with LED, which will save us money long-term. Some of the projects we're doing are long-term projects. Just like we got $285,000 across the street, all the lighting project over there went all LED. Over time, you're gonna see some of that money's come back. That was an 80-20 project as well that we got.
But out of that 688, what's it cost you to run the transportation system for a year? What's your operating budget?
Believe it or not, it's, our budget last year that we have not ended this year was 3.6 million. We were under budget by about 400,000.
Okay, 3.6. We'd be contributing about 688, and then the county.
Nothing for the county, but UA is called a flow through.
Oh, UA puts in?
Yes, UA, we're at 98,750, I believe exactly. What that money goes is for that UA shuttle route.
Okay.
It goes twice an hour, and they funded that beginning in 2011.
Okay, so
Yes.
3.6, that's under budget. 688 is what you're looking for from the city, plus the special appropriation.
Yeah, and that would be, standard. We didn't increase for that. We're okay with that. We have some projects planned this year, but always with, with local match, it depends, Councilman Crowe, what we do. If it's capital, it's 80-20, or any projects we do. Say we have to replace a radio, it's 80-20. A lighting project we did at the shop just this past year made a huge difference out there, outside as well. We were one of the ones that got caught up in the catalytic converters. We lost 5, and we still operated the next day.
Wow.
We put all reserves out, used an old bus that we really were using on fixed route, had to do it because it had a lift. And by that afternoon, we had 1 replaced, the next day 2 replaced, and by the end of the week, we had all 5 replaced. That's when about a month later, we changed all the lighting out and all that. We still have security, but those things, they can't get buses to load. And I know it's off subject, but we were caught up in that. That was a huge charge for us.
So you,
Yes, sir.
so your increase, operating assistance increases only 5%.
Well, we've asked for 5%
Right.
to cover the fuel overage. Because see, unfortunately, now most of that is 50-50. Our service trucks, we have 2 service trucks that's on the road.
Mm-hmm.
If we break down, we have technicians, we have mechanics. Our mechanics, they can change their motor routes, and that is unheard of. Some people contract that out. We used to, but we've trained our guys up. We believe in training. All 3 technicians can change a motor route, and now these are $18,000 motors. But yeah, they're 8 for a bus. They're $18,000, a lot less obviously for a van. Well, it is, but we do the labor. Yeah, we got the labor. It'd be $25,000 to $26,000 if you shopped it around. We've had to do that. You're going to replace an engine in a bus at least once in that 12-year life. You will change that engine out at least once. We're up and down hills. Buses never stop. Yeah, I mean we stop and idle, but they're still running.
If your budget is the 3.6, and I'm just saying 600 from the city, is the rest of that generated with your ride charges dollars?
Or ride
50 cents,
dollars, and so we charge $2 on the vans, and it doesn't matter because they're ADA consistent. But with federal law, there's millions of federal laws we have to go by. But you're allowed to do twice your nominal rate, which is $1. That's what we charge on game days. We would love to do that for free, but the feds only allow us to run the UA shuttle to Calvary Baptist and back on game days. We still have to charge $1. We'd like to do it for free, but they won't let us do it unless we follow the same rate we ought to. There's all these rules, and we follow. There's no doubt about that. We get all. But 85-15 on buses, vans, service trucks, 80-20, admin cars, 80-20. All projects, 80-20. Most, well, not about half of our operating, like bus drivers are 50-50, plus French's is 50-50. Our mechanic shop is called preventive maintenance. We get 80-20 on that. So a lot of that helps the way you draw. So you look at our budget, and as you mentioned, Councilman Busby, look at 680 something, but we got a $3.6 million budget. If we wasn't subsidized by the federal government, we wouldn't operate. No transit in America would operate. We have to take our bus receipts, use that money first before we can draw down federal money. And when we get audited, they check that right off the bat. every month we have to draw down, not draw down, we have to pay out of our pocket all the cost
Spend the
of
money
that.
we're giving you first.
Exactly. We can't use that as matching money, we have to use it as program income. All these rules and regulations, but it's worth it because the feds are giving us, roughly last year we allocated 2.7 million from the feds. And we had the CARES Act, which really helped tremendously, because that was 100%. And we couldn't buy capital with that, it was strictly operating, preventive maintenance and so forth, so.
Okay, very good.
Yes.
Mr. Wilson, Mr. Burton, any other? Mr. Fail?
No, I just appreciate what Russell's doing. It's not an easy job.
Well, it's not, but I enjoy what I'm doing. I mean, I
Right.
had 13 years with the city before, in an agency.
Yeah.
But I picked up and went across the street. I borrowed, from my IT department, I borrowed a little buggy. We since bought one. We borrowed it for a few years. But I moved my office over there and had looked back. I enjoy coming to work. Don't mind getting up and coming to work. It's not a day go by. We do not try to improve things. There's not a day to go by. As y'all know, I think, might have been specifically you.
Yes,
We
sir.
have $100,000 coming from the feds for bus shelters, new bus shelters.
Yes, sir.
That would include concrete as well.
Good.
They've gone up 30-40% too, but as soon as that grant is, I'll be letting the council know. That will be 80-20, so you got 100,000. So with 100,000, it would take a 20,000, but you really got 20,000, 120,000. That makes sense, because you're gonna get 100, you gotta pay 20 of that 100.
Yes, sir.
120. So we look at, we might could get, depending on the pricing, but we certainly need more out there, but that would be worthwhile out of the weather. Always know though, it's always have to be on the city right away.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So there's some places our customers want, we understand that, but if it ain't inside them poles to the road, we can't use it just like a water meter, same deal.
And I appreciate
Yeah,
you.
we're working on it. We're gonna get that money.
Yes, sir.
$100,000, it would take a match. I'm not here for that today, but I think we've recently talked
Yes,
about
sir.
that and some staff are working on that. So that's coming. I'll let y'all know. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Good presentation.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, is there any other items that need to be brought before the Finance Committee today?
Motion adjourned, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All in favor,